Good morning, traders. How we doing out there? It's good to be back, and wouldn't you know it, guys, another twist to the narrative on the tariff. What happened to the Trump tariffs? Are there even Trump tariffs? Who knows right now as things get back and forth. And it seems like throughout the weekend, we got some more news, right, that will be affecting a lot of areas that were impacted. Semiconductors, electronics, things like this. We'll take a look at how this could be affecting different stocks. Some stocks already lifting, right? And we'll see, is this even going to stick? I think that even the White House doesn't even know what the hell they're doing with the tariffs. I don't even think Trump knows what he's doing with the tariffs. He's still trying to figure it out. So if there was a plan, I don't think that plan is being followed, as the back and forth action from China and the US with tariffs are causing questions. Now, the only thing that we're starting to see, though, is a little bit of a rally. And it seems like the rally's actually holding in here, guys. We'll talk a little bit more about it. We'll take a look at different trade opportunities out there. We'll get to the playbook, the sunrise report. We'll be looking around in the market to see what we can come up with. It's another great day here. It's Trade the Pool. Let's take a look at the playbook to get things started and see what we can come up with today. All right, guys, when we start on the playbook, we got to start with, of course, the VIX, and the VIX could be coming crashing down. I talked about that last week as we were already getting a little bit of a move down, and it was a little bit of some back and forth action, right, last week. So now look how the VIX is starting to kind of really just deteriorate here. And you can take a look at the daily. You can see how we've been kind of a big range, expanded range, almost 20 points there from the 70 to the 90. Now we could start breaking that support, that 70 support, and going right back into the 60s. So I think at this point, you have a line in the sand at the top end, and you just keep looking to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Of course, we can take a look to see if it gets back above 87. That's going to be your bull side outlook break. Bear side break is going to be through the 70s into the 60 gap, right? There's a gap right here between 66 and down to 62. So that's where I could see prices going fast, right? Doesn't mean that the VIX is going to completely collapse, let's say back down to like 20s or something like that. But I think in this area is going to be an area to watch to see if we can come back to and hit that, right? And so that could be an area that maybe we can play to the downside and then look to see if we get some upside bounce right back, right? So we'll see what happens in that area on the VXX here, looking for some downside. Of course, we can take a look at different stocks here. We can go to the TQQQ and look to see some lift, as tech should be seeing some lift with some mentions of the tariff exemptions. So with this being said, you can already see the morning action getting strong. And we're about to break a level that I was looking to see if we'd break towards the open, which was 51.50. We're really close to breaking that right now. Of course, from the 4:15 hours, you can see that this was 51.49. It was the kind of resistance here. Let's see if we can get through that and actually make another push above that. That could be the start of the rally here, even in the pre-market. We'll see what happens there in the TQQQ. All right, guys, let's go to, of course, Apple, as this was one of the stocks that I was talking about, could see the biggest downfall with the tariffs. And then what do you know it? Hey, Trump comes in, turns things around, tells you that electronics won't be on the tariffs, or there will be, but at a lower amount, right? 20%. And then another mention, right, is the semiconductors. So much action that came out that is actually helping Apple massively today, because what you thought was going to happen isn't the same, right? If it was going to be China tariffed at 125%, well, Apple was going to keep coming down. That's just the truth of the matter. And now you're getting the flip action. So we got to look to see what happens with this. See if it can actually continue a sustained rally, or will there be a flip on the tariffs? And then all of a sudden, Apple comes crashing right back down. For me, I'm betting a little bit on the upside, because this has just caught so many traders by surprise, right? I mean, we're already back to 210 when this was just down on Tuesday of last week, down there to 169. I mean, we're talking about over 25% on the way back up. Not a bad little move there on Apple. And we'll take a look to see if they find some other plays, and especially these bigger boys starting to bounce back. So, of course, we can take a look at it. Microsoft, Amazon also getting a nice little bounce back. And mentions today, guys, and those tariff exemptions. Look how it affected a stock that I talked about would get hit the most with the electronics and how TVs and different things were going to jump in price. Well, take a look today at Best Buy and the bounce back that they're getting. Big jump back there towards 68.11s. We'll look to see if it can fill the gap back to the 71. But all these are going to be in play. So we continue to watch to see what happens here. I talked about how Roku could see a big hit. Well, that could bounce back today. So another one to put on the radar. There's a lot of plays out there to take a look at today, and that's going to do it for our playbook. But something definitely to watch for is how electronics, semiconductor stocks, and of course others will be performing after these tariff exemptions mentioned. All right, guys, let's keep going. Let's get to the sunrise report. Let's take a look at what's moving and what's moving out there. It's 8:44. We got a lot to get through, and 9 a.m. coming faster than ever. Michael Noss will be joining us, and of course, we'll take a look into the market. I do have a trade on right now, guys, that I want to let you guys know. I actually took a little swing trade in the smaller account, the $5,000 account, guys. So I have a trade on right now that we can talk about. You guys can see it here. It's up a pretty significant amount for this smaller account. I've been shorting MLGO since pretty much Friday's action on 15.15. So we'll look to see if this can continue coming down. I might take the profits and run because it really isn't a bad gain at 100. But looking to see if we can get some opening action to just go down to the low, pre-market low of after hours low of yesterday. Our Friday's action was 13.79. If I could get down there, that's an extra 30, 40 bucks there. We'll see what happens there if I'm able to cash in on MLGO. All right, guys, I'm sorry about it if you hear my boys yelling in the background there. They're having a good time, just like we are having a good time, and we'll see what else is going on in the market. All right, guys, let's keep it going. We'll talk about different trades, but let's get to the sunrise report and take a look at what's moving out there. I'll keep my eye on my trade here on MLGO. Maybe I'll just cash it, but not a bad looking short to start the day. All right, let's get to the sunrise report. All right, the tariffs twist is sparking a little bit of a tech rally, but for how long is the question, of course, as futures are surging on surprise tariff reprieve. Of course, markets are waking up bullish after President Trump's unexpected exemption on key imports lifted in the sentiment there, guys. Dow futures up about a full percent. S&P 500 futures up about 1.5. NASDAQ 1.7. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection confirmed that smartphones, computer chips, tech components are off the hook for now. But here's the twist, guys. Trump, via Truth Social, said that these products are still subject to the existing 20% fentanyl tariffs, just in a different bucket. What does this have to do with fentanyl? I don't understand things right now, guys. I don't even think Trump understands things right now. And so with that being said, guys, we got to continue to look to see what else is going on in the market. We got to keep going and focusing. The truth is, you can't know what's going to come next. You have to almost guess and just make sure that you're protecting your risk. Translation, of course, the relief rally could be short-lived as uncertainty still remains high, guys. Of course, Apple up 5% in the pre-market, the biggest winner on the tariff news. No forced price hikes in China was definitely a sign of relief for investors out there. Apple right back up there, 210. There's a reason why I'm looking at it, guys. And I think this was a big surprise indeed. Take a look at NVIDIA this morning. Nice little jump back there. AMD pushing this morning. I could see it getting a nice little lift. SMCI even getting a little bit of a push on this. The overall tech ETF riding high on the back of that tariff relief. And Best Buy up 9% off of that mention, right? Dell Technologies that has a lot of laptops, right? Things like that exposed here. Now right back up. While this was crashing, this went down 31% really fast. It's right back 25% higher. Crazy to see that, but that's just how it goes sometimes, guys. Let's go to Goldman Sachs as their earnings came in today, and the bank earnings continue to come in as the earnings season really kicks off this week. We'll see what happens if Goldman Sachs can pass through the 517, start working its way back. That's the area that I'll be watching today. Break 517. This is not a bad stock to watch, especially if we're still in that rally. So EPS coming in here at $14.12 versus a $12.35 estimate. Goldman Sachs killing it on EPS again. They do this often, guys. This is why it's so important to look at your calendar and look at prior earnings to see how they've actually been affected. Another place that you guys can find this is on Earnings Hub. This is a place that I've been using as of late, but all good information, guys. Revenue at $15.6 billion versus $14.81 billion estimate. The stock rose nearly 2% on the beat. Strong trading and investment banking tailwinds is what affected the earnings. So there you guys see it. Nice little lift off there from Goldman Sachs. Let's keep going, guys. Let's take a look around to see what else we could take a look at today. Pfizer are trading down here as the shares tickled down after halting developments coming out here, guys. And another disaster for Pfizer. I've told you guys, I've tried to call the bottom on this stock plenty of times. It just seems to me like it just can't catch a grip. It's just a falling knife, and I don't see things turning around anytime soon. Shares are trickled down after halting development of its daily weight loss pill after a patient in the trial suffered a possible liver injury, prompting the pause. So definitely not what you want to see, especially when they pause the trial. That essentially means that they'll probably have to start the trial again or address why the possible liver injury happened. Question for investors, of course, with the exemptions possibly temporary, will today's rally hold? Or is this just another fake out fueled by headline risk? We'll have to see today, guys. I really don't think we're out of the realms of concern until we get back through these layers where we went up to on the spike, which was a 548. So pretty much 550s. We need to clear 550s for me to really start feeling a little bit better about the overall market. We'll see if we can get back to 550s here. I'll be watching for that action. But for right now, I think that's the number that we got to give ourselves, and then waiting to see that to really think that the market is just coming right back here. All right, guys, we'll see what happens on that one. That's for that 550 mark. We'll see if this can really start climbing back. And I talked about how we could see an ascending triangle here off of this turning around pattern. And that's exactly what we're seeing. The only question is, I didn't expect it to be that expanded of a range, right? From the bottom of it at 490 up there to 550s. We're talking over 60 points there. That's crazy. Crazy talk, guys. All right, we'll take a look at the different action in the market. It's 8:51. We're getting towards 9 a.m. If you guys have a stock that you guys are watching this morning, throw it up in the chat. It's good to catch some different names in the chat out there. Good morning to you guys out there. Gary, how we doing? Gordon, Vic, what's up out there, man? We'll have to take a look to see what else is going on in the market today. And if you guys have a ticker you guys want to take a look at, throw it up there. We'll catch it. All right, let's keep it going, guys. Let's take a look at what's going on in different sectors out there and what we could be trading, guys. Of course, we can take a look at some of the smaller names. I got no problem doing that. Let me take a look here just right now to see if there's anything that's standing out to me. Let me just do a little refresh of my scanner here. See if there's anything that's standing out. This third getting a little bit of a lift just now, guys. THRD. I haven't really seen this one, but nice little lift off. This one happened early in the morning and pretty much going sideways now. Verity Therapeutics. This is not a bad one. A nice little lift off to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now going back here into kind of your ABC mode. We'll see if we can get back there towards the 425s and get this one to spike. Not a bad one to keep on the radar for one of those smaller names. UFG, nothing there. And that's pretty much it, at least from what I see on my scanners. If you guys got a small one you guys are checking out, like always, guys, smash the like. Let's get those flexes on and let's keep pushing. Of course, last week I opened up 2 evals. I opened up a really small one, and then I opened up one of the $100,000 accounts. I'm going to continue to try to balance and try to push on that. They are the flex, and on the $100,000 account, I was able to make oh no, $50,000 account, I was able to make 262. So I opened up just a little bit bigger than what I used to have, the 20,000, pretty much doubling that, right? So now I got the 50. I got 262. Got to keep just working my way up, slowly but surely, going towards the profit. Let's take a look at one of the names mentioned in the chat. Alex bringing in Lucid here. The Lucid Dreamers, as I like to call them. We'll see what happens, guys, with this company. See if they can turn things around. They did make a purchase to try to help them. I think they purchased some assets from Nikola, and that should help. But I don't think this story can turn around, guys. And one of the major things is, where do you see Lucids? I don't see them just driving around. And that's the main thing, guys, is that this has just been a falling knife, guys. This was at one point up there to 50s. And some people were thinking maybe it's a $15 company. But no, now it's a $2.55 company. I always thought this company would go out of business. And that was from even these spikes. Well, now I think it really is pushing, guys. And yeah, it could see some lift. It could get some spike. But it really isn't a company that's sexy to me here. Can it get above this resistance? Yes, it can make a 260 run, maybe a run to 3, but that's only about 55 cents away. We'll see what happens there. All right, let's keep going, guys. SPY continuing to hold over there at 542. We're close to that 550 level. I mean, when you think about it, the way the stock's been moving, we might as well get to that 500 level pretty quickly. We'll see what happens, guys. Specialty retail, a lot of the apparel names could see a bounce back today. So if you're looking for bounce back names, look at AEO, ANF, right? Restoration Hardware, Wayfair. Names that make consumer electronics also could be getting a nice little bounce back. I think there's Ambarella. Ambarella could be getting a nice little bounce back with this, guys. This is a chip maker that could be seeing a little bit of a lift because of the news, right? I think these are all names that you got to watch for. You got to know what can be exposed to some of these China kind of tariffs, and now what might have gotten pulled off, right? But definitely Best Buy, names like that are going to be on the radar. Look at Best Buy already lifting a little bit higher, and we can continue to watch to see some of these electronic names get a little bit of a lift. I know Corsair Gaming's another one that could get a nice little push. These are all just names that had exposure to electronics, right, in China. So all those plays, I think, are definitely something to look at, and we can look to see if we can capitalize on that. Another thing to do is just go in your consumer cyclicals and go to your apparel, right? And we can do apparel manufacturing, and we could take a look at what's on the downside of the RSI that isn't bad, like not a bad stock that we could see get a little bounce. And Under Armour, not a bad name to maybe see get a little bit of a bounce. Ralph Lauren, another name that could get a nice little bounce here. I think you got to continue to watch these. They're not bad names. I think in the end, it's not that people aren't flushing these because they don't believe in the companies. People are flushing these because of inventory concerns from the tariffs. So now you just got to see how things flip, and things can flip really quickly. Levi Strauss up there to 1530s when this was down there below towards the $12. Nice little lift there on Levi. And I think we got to watch all of these, right? There's PVH that has exposure to Europe. If there's a deal that is announced with the EU, well, this name could get a lift. And I think that's what we got to continue to watch. There's going to be a lot of action like that, but you got to have the shopping list ready to go is very important. All right, let's take a look around. Let me see if there's anything else being mentioned right now. I'm looking around to see if there's anything else. More than 60% of CEOs expect a recession in the next 6 months as tariff turmoil grows, said a survey from CNBC. So looks like a lot of people are betting on that action. If we take a look around, there's not really too much more. I think it's just going to be more watching to see what happens to the rest of the week. We can take a look at the earnings hub, right? We can take a look at that to see what's going on, what comes later in the week. There's a lot to look at. This is one of those websites that I've been telling you guys about. You got to have your tools, right? Well, this is one of the ones that I like, just like the way that they do it, the calendar, everything, the look. It's pretty well done, guys. So we got to continue to watch to see what happens here. We got a couple of names to watch for. Of course, today we got Goldman Sachs before the open, but tomorrow, Johnson & Johnson, Bank of America, Citi, United after the bell, right? Interactive Brokers, one to watch there. But then later in the week, we get ASML, big one to watch. Of course, that will give us some insight of how the semiconductor equipment stocks are handling some of the tariff pressure. Another thing to watch for, how much tariff talk gets mentioned in your earnings, and do guidances start to get pulled back or completely off where there's no guidance given. All these kinds of insights are going to be important to watch. So now it's not necessarily about the earnings that come in for the prior quarter, but what are these companies looking at ahead? And how are they going to go ahead and get around some of these tariffs? Are they going to mention, yes, we have some pricing power here that we can go ahead and increase pricing? Things like that. I think all things to look at, especially on these earnings calls. We'll see what happens there, but that's going to do it for my conversation. Of course, we'll see what happens later in the week with some of these names, TSM. We'll take a look at American Express, and we got to talk a little bit more about the credit card situation that's happening. Of course, we've talked about some delinquencies and things like that that could keep going. And then Netflix, that's going to be an interesting one, of course, on Thursday after the bell. All right, guys, let's keep going. We'll take a look at different stocks out there. But if you guys got a ticker you guys want to talk about, throw it up in the chat. It's time to really kick things off. It's time to start the show. It's time to start the week. Let's do it right, guys. Like always, it's been a tough market. It hasn't been easy. That doesn't mean that we don't have some good trades up our hands and ready to get after the market. The real key is, like always, being able to deal with volatility is not an easy thing. But guess what? You got Michael and I here to battle with you. So let's get right to the market. Let's start that countdown and see what we can come up with today. Google wants 200, baby. You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money.
It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at. What up, traders? How we doing? Let's go ahead. Let's get it started. Let's bring on my man, Michael Noss. What's going on, man? All the bears are back in the cave and winter's back. Let's put them back to sleep.
I am very happy that the bond made him flinch, and if the bonds keep going the way they're going, he's probably going to flinch more, and I'm totally okay with that. So it's a good time to be owning stocks. Of course, I wish I was fully invested, but my system's got me about halfway there. So some great names like Palantir and things like that, but I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, and it's I mean, you can't be too mad because at the end of the day, we all know how this comes. This has come off of rhetoric, right? Not exact numbers, and it's very hard to, let's say, predict rhetoric. Let's just be honest. Like you're still doing a guesstimation, right? That's the best that you could do there. It's not going to be something that anyone knows unless you're on that cabinet and actually talking to Trump, right? I mean, I'm sure there were some that knew, but we won't get into that conversation. We'll talk more about what happened this weekend, right? Which was an exempt or maybe potential exempt on different products, right? Whether it be computer chips, whether it be consumer electronics, right? Computers, Dell getting a big jump, right? I talked about how Best Buy could be that name that really could see destruction throughout the year if these tariffs were going to stick. Because I was like, man, there's going to be no one buying electronics when you went to go buy an electronic then saw its price jump by over 100%. You would be like, no, I'm not touching that, man. There's no point. And then I saw even a headline today about PS5 getting a nice little lift on pricing, right? And so that is already a sign of concern. There's a new, there's also a new one, a new Switch that's coming out from China, right? Nintendo Switch. That's going to get a price lift also, guys. And regardless if we're seeing these exemptions or not, we're not getting real clear, defined action from this. We don't have like a list of products or things like that that are going to be exempt. And it's a very, very generalization comment that was given to us. And that's where the concern is also, right? It's not like we're getting real clear outlook of what's going on. It almost seemed to me, and at least just from my thinking, is that too many CEOs came knocking on the door of Trump last week, and said, hey, Trump, we can't do this, man. Like, I know you don't want us raising prices and all that, but we cannot handle this switch that fast. Key word there. We can handle it, but you got to give us time. You got to give us some time to start working on our supply chains and adjusting things. I think that's what really happened. Enough CEOs came calling, enough of the big ones came calling, and we're like, if you continue this, you are going to destroy our company. A company like Apple that I thought was really in concern, a big flip here with the mention. And you think about what are the things that they offer, all the things that Trump mentioned.
Well, and I think it all comes down to the bond market, right? I think it's the bond market flinched, and the bond market made them flinch hard. And it's one of those things where, yes, countries own a lot of these bonds, right? I showed you the kind of graphic of that before.
Yeah.
But so do corporations. And if corporations are starting to struggle and they need cash, they're going to start selling T-bills. And especially Apple in particular owns a whole bunch. I forget the number, but it was billions and billions of dollars of U.S. bonds. And for those who don't know, a lot of people think the equity market is big. The equity market is peanuts. The bond market, total bond market, is nearly $1 quadrillion, which is $1,000 trillion. It is 10 times the global equity market. It's huge, right? The bonds are massive. It's just massive. And yeah, the equity market is just tiny in comparison. So the equity market losing 10, 20%, that's fine. Bond markets getting killed the way they were. I don't think it's a coincidence that, right, overnight the bonds were collapsing, and then the next day all of a sudden we're backing off on all the tariffs, right? So right here is where the bond market was. It's right in this area is where the bond market was when he flinched, right? So exactly. I think we kind of watched this zone, and then this was Friday. And then all of a sudden on Friday, now we're talking about maybe exemptions for electronics and things like that. For those who don't know, right, I just did this whole speech on Trader TV about it, so I'm all primed up. But the reason the bond market is so important is that as bonds sell off, the yield on those bonds increases. So as that yield increases, it just shows you that, okay, we cannot service our debt anymore. Our debt becomes more expensive, not just for the country, but for individual corporations. So if someone wanted to build a factory in the US to get around the tariffs, if the bond market's collapsing, then rates are going through the roof, and then they can't even build the factory inside the US. So the bond market kind of controls everything. And normally we don't pay a lot of attention to it because normally the bond market's really boring by design, right? The whole point of treasury bills is they're not supposed to move, right? You're supposed to buy them and then you hold them for however long it is, and then you get your money back plus a bit and you move on. The fact that the world and companies inside the states and companies or corporations outside the states were just starting to dump treasuries because they no longer looked at this as a safe place to do business. That's what made them flinch, because if the bonds continue to go down, that's like one economist I listened to on the weekend said if the bonds continued the way they were doing, it would have made about 2008 look like a walk in the park, right? And it's, again, not because of the equities. The equities are super tiny in comparison to the bond market. And then there's the derivative market, which is 10 times bigger than the bond market, which is probably, at that point, 10 quadrillion, which I actually had to Google. It was a real number, not something my 3-year-old made up, but 1,000 trillion is a quadrillion, I guess. And that kind of speaks everything. So I think we watched this level, right? So we flinched twice when the bonds hit this level. And I think that's probably now something that we can use technical analysis for. If the bonds continue to sell off, there's only a couple things he can do, right? Back off the rhetoric with the tariffs. Buy back bonds from the government, which is supposed to be the role of the Fed. Like, he not supposed to have the balance sheet to do that, but I think that's where it goes next. He's going to start browbeating poor J-Pow on the lower rates and to start quantitative tightening or quantitative easing, which is buying back these bonds and flooding the world with money again. So I think if we get back to these zones, that's where the market gets worried. Just interesting to watch the bond market instead of the stock market to see when the worries come in.
Yeah, I mean, at least from what the Fed was saying, they were slowing things down, not speeding them back up. And so I think that's one thing that we'll continue to watch in the rhetoric. They were still doing their mortgage-backed securities and buying up those and putting the backstop, but telling you that they were slowing it down, right? And I think that's a real thing to watch, right? If they flip on that, or did they go back into that camp? I think another thing, though, to keep in mind is, I mean, with the markets bouncing the way they did, and everything that happened in the inflation readings that we got last week, that told me more and more there could possibly be no rate cut this whole year. And they're still pricing in rate cuts, at least from right now. Even in the next the CME Fed Watch tool, right, is saying that it was at, I got to look at it today, but just want to give you the updated reading real quick, which is 17.6, right? But last week, a week ago, it was at 38.5 on April 7th. Yeah. So
I think
there,
even above that on the spike, it was getting crazy. But and that's what they're seeing is, right, rates went from, so just for reference, this is all of 2024 rate hike in through here, right? This is what was caused kind of in this area, and we got pretty much just that, right? So here's the 2022 onwards. We went from kind of 1.5% over years to say 4.5%. Well, we went from 3% to 4%, or 3.5% to 4.5% in a number of days. So it just kind of goes to show that if that continued, it could have been just a completely disastrous situation. So again, as someone who owns names like Palantir and all this, just because my system told me to, I'm loving that I'm up on Palantir 40% in a week. I'll take some of those for sure. Yeah. It's been a rough market for swing traders, so I'm glad. But yeah, I think we have a pretty easy line in the sand, and it's just mark 85 on the bond market, and if we lose that, then I think coincidentally there'll be more, hey, it's a good time to buy things, and then more rose garden speeches about whatever. Because I've been saying it, I think once a day, every day. The way this ends, so he goes, I had a good conversation with so and so or Z or whatever it is, and
he already kind of mentioned it. He mentioned it, right? There was a mention in the weekend that expect something good from China. Hints like that, right? I don't know if we can really believe the hints, but if you believe the hints on the last one he gave you, right, about this was the buy opportunity I made, well, then you cashed, right? I don't know.
I don't know if you were watching the unusual options activity that went through.
Oh, I know. I poor Walter Bloomberg, right? That's all I gotta say. Somebody was making money. They were making option calls already before on that call, let alone the call that actually came in and actually pushed that higher, right? So that person is absolutely killing it, right? I mean, yeah, options markets can tell you a lot, guys. Sometimes when you see those big contracts, just put it this way: no one does big bets like that unless they know something. Let's be honest, right?
You're not going to swing I think it was 600,000 or something that expired that day. So if you didn't get a move that day, and it had to be a pretty big move, you would have lost $600,000 just completely gone.
Yeah, I think interesting conversation was off of that. It wasn't the fake 90-day, but the real 90-day pause.
He didn't do it the first time. He did it. Yeah.
And in the White House, there was a recording of Trump talking to different people, and he had Charles Schwab there, the actual Charles Schwab. And he was talking about how he was like, oh, this guy made 1 point something million, and this guy made 900,000 today. And he had a big old smile on his face. I was like, dude, are you serious?
He's doing it in public now, right?
Are you serious? Like he's just being he's boasting about it. He's like, I'm making this guy a million. I made this guy 900,000. You don't think those guys are going to be there to do him favors moving forward?
Oh, that's it's one of those you kind of think
Come on,
that's
man.
the way it's always worked, but it was never just so in your face. It was like at
Yeah,
least they had the wherewithal to do it behind closed doors and all that.
yeah.
Like
Just and maybe just not on video. Like,
yeah, don't get yourself recorded committing crimes. I guess is probably a good lesson for everyone out there. But yeah,
and I just love the kind of like the boastfulness of it, right? It's not like I'm embarrassed of this, but like I caused this. Like, look at this kind of thing. And I think that we're really got to pay attention to what happens this week, right? Because what's going to happen, right? Is Trump going to bend to China? And he even came out with a comment about this. He said that I didn't break or I didn't give up or something, pretty much telling us. And if you know anybody that takes a course on logic, right, on writing, he pretty much told you there, I gave up, I bended and broke. Like,
yes,
unless you take it as like what he's saying is true, but really what he's telling you is he's almost admitting it as it being the first sentence in that conversation, right? It was like the first sentence of that tweet. So it's
well,
something to think about.
unless you're kind of a diehard supporter or one of those people that whatever he does is fantastic. I don't think there's anyone serious that believes that it wasn't a flinch, and mostly because the bond market, right?
Yeah.
Because again, you can. I don't think Trump cares if Nike goes bankrupt. I don't think he cares if a couple of these companies get picked off. But again, a 2008 style entire market collapse, you can't do that, right?
No, you can't.
He's intelligent enough to know, okay, 2008 took what 10 plus years to recover from, and he's got midterms in a year and a half. So right, there has to be some concession there, and then probably was presented with this is how you can spin it to look good, and those are that's fine. And I think that's what will happen as things go on. If we start to see really high inflation prints, right, that's going to cause, because at some point he's going to have a meeting with JPOW, and JPOW is going to sit him down and say, listen, if inflation goes up, I have to start cutting rates, or I have to start raising rates again. And that's not what he wants, right? So I think, again, this thing will be fairly short-lived. I don't know if this is the bottom or not. There's a whole bunch of statistics that say it's probably not. After giant moves like this, you generally get another down leg. But
Yeah.
it's just so different this time because it's not an external event like it was in 2008, which was
Yeah.
pretty much uncontrollable. This is something that was caused and could be undone today if you want it. So it's a much more interesting thing. But technically, we're getting up to this level right here, which is the double bottom that we broke down from. The VWAP from all-time highs, you can see we stalled there exactly. That was a 200-day moving average. The VWAP from all-time highs, we fell. So we got a lot of technical stuff above. And from a psychological point of view, I think, hey, like me, for example, just I'll say sheer luck, but a lot of my swing systems that we do over at Stats Edge, they had me buying here. So I bought a whole bunch of stuff, and I'm supposed to sell it today, and I'm probably going to, because it's one of those I'd rather take the cash as opposed to the uncertainty. So I think there's going to be a lot of that. I think there's going to be a lot of people that maybe got involved somewhere in this candle, and as this thing kind of rallies up, they're looking to sell, and shorts might start loading back in as we get to this area. So this kind of huge, and we'll call it 550 on the SPY. 550 to 555, say. I think that's just going to be such a huge zone. I don't know if we're going to get through it all in one go. I don't know if we're going to get through it this week, unless there is yes, I've made a deal with China, the tariffs go away, that kind of thing. But you still have 10% tariffs on everyone else, and there's still 125% on China. So I don't know. I'm just not, I'm usually the bull guy here, but I just see a lot of resistance in our face, and I could think it takes a while to get through.
Yeah, the truth is you got to know the buckets that nobody knows. The buckets that I think are being invented today. And I think that's what we need to be watching for. The specifics are going to come out, guys. And I think that's what you watch for today. At some point, I think we'll get specifics of exactly what's being exempt and what's not. And it could be a huge list, right? It could just be like these 2,000 products are being exempt. And then you had to go through every single one to see which one belongs to which company and what impact does that cause. So those interns in the basement.
That's what I was about to say. Those poor interns, man. They came up on the weekend
They're
and they
not
opened
getting
the
out,
door.
man.
And
They're
there's a
not
golden
getting
guide. No, get your ass back down. Here's some fish heads. Here's your Red Bull. It's changed now. You need to know exactly where every company gets their like semiconductors and their circuit boards and blah blah. Go and
No,
yeah,
man. And
we're gonna start hearing about deaths in the Goldman Sachs office soon.
And let's be honest. I saw a lot of news reporting on this. This put a lot of pressure also on a lot of countries elsewhere, right? Like, let's say if you were a factory worker in China, you got a lot of concern if your job was going to be there this week, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because the factories in the world were going to have to make a decision, right? And the higher ups were going to make a decision. Do we just cut a bunch of people to try to get around the tariffs to save money that way? Right? Because the number one expense is a lot of times is employees. You can save if you cut there, right? But it's also a concern, right?
Well, I think it's even worse for, not to get too morbid about it, but the places like Kuala Lumpur and Bangladesh and these really kind of poorer countries, all they do, and they've made their whole economy on sweatshops and building stuff and sending it over to and it's not like they don't want to shop at America. They just can't. Their currency's not good. They're a poor country. They can't buy things from America. So they had massive trade deficits because their whole economy is we are going to build cheap shirts and we're going to send it to America. Yeah. And if that went away, those places are shut down. And yeah, there'd be a lot of actual like human death and harm that would caused by this because their whole country is building these textiles and putting little screws in iPhones and things like that in the hopes that down the road, the country can kind of pay for itself and then educate people and blah, blah, blah. So it's not like they're doing this like maliciously because they want to take jobs from Americans. They're doing it because they're very cheap, right? They're inexpensive people. So there'd be a lot of harm to people like that.
You mentioned, they don't take goods from the US, and the very few that they do would now be just outpriced. Right? Yeah. Like they'd be outpriced, and then they can't even get those small amounts of products they might be getting from us. Right. And then that's not even to mention when we start getting into more healthcare talks and things like that. Right. But that's just to mention that at the end of the day, these are big situations that affect thousands and millions of people out there. And I think that we got to continue to watch what happens. The world dynamics tried to be changed by Trump with this move, essentially killing free trade, killing global trade altogether, right? That's the move he did. Now let's see what happens, right? Do we still see that continued push for only US, right? That mentality is not just here. That mentality is in Europe also. Europe, a lot of people are like that. They're like, well, we don't want those Americans coming over here. We don't want the tourists.
See that tourist chart? I'll see if I can grab it. It was all over Twitter.
The tourists. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm also hinting to. And I think that this is something that's changing the dynamics of politics everywhere in the world. Protectionism, right? Patriotism, wherever you want to be looking at. Before, the worlds used to always try to work together. How can we find relationships to create better relationships for our people, right? But now this has changed, right? This chart tells you it, right? I mean, the number of Europeans traveling to US.
The amount of people, Europeans, coming over. And it doesn't matter. These are all different countries. It doesn't matter what you look at. Just absolute tanking down 20, 30, 40, 50%.
And it's not only the ones traveling, right? It's they don't want us coming over there either. You've heard so many countries start making different moves to try to almost limit tourism, which is something unheard of in the past, right? I mean, if anything, they were pushing and trying to give to get people to come.
I'm a great example, right? I'm going to New York in the end of the month, at the 30th, for a Stock Twits thing. And it's like the first time ever in my life I'm actually somewhat nervous about crossing the border. And I've got like the Nexus Pass, they call it, but it's supposed to be like, the U.S. government has looked at me and done all its criminal record and blah, blah. I'm supposed to be able just to walk right through the border. And it's never been a problem before, but I'm like actually nervous about going to America for the first time, just because the whole, 51st state and all this kind of stuff. And yeah,
you're not alone, man. You're not alone.
No, it's a big thing. So then we look at DAL, right? You can look at what
airlines.
RCL.
Airlines are important right now.
Airlines,
I think
cruises,
leisure
hotels
will be fun to watch today, right? Because leisure was taking a big hit, and the fun part was I even got told about this because I brought this up like 2 weeks ago on a show but it was already taking a hit. Yeah, I said it had already taken a hit, but it was going to take another one with the way that the consumer outlook was moving to. So essentially, it's taken like 2 or 3 hits. I mean. And so I think we got to watch this area as being an area that could have bounce backs. It's all the areas that were viewed as negative as they could be yesterday or last week. And now this week could be a flip, could be as simple as that, as a flip. And it's hard to do that. That's why I talked about how when we were bringing in these tariffs, how these weren't numbers, but talk. Numbers and talk are 2 different things. Numbers are hard to work back from. Talk is very easy. It's as simply as flipping the wording, right?
Yeah.
And that creates just a whipsaw action. And that's what you see on the charts, whipsaw action. Now, I think unless you see whipsaw negatively affecting from Trump's rhetoric, I think you continue to see the market rising. What can bring the concern now, Michael? To me, I think it's just consumer sentiment and consumer spending. If consumer spending goes in the gutter, we're back to those lows, I think, on the TLT and putting pressure, because then that's actual numbers showing the economic slowdown. But if somehow the consumer can stay here more resilient than it's ever been, right? We have that consumer out there. Let's see if it can stick on here and still hang around. If the consumer can just stick around here, I think Trump could just drive this market right back, because inflation numbers are going to take a long time to show up from the tariffs. And the other action there that you can think of is inflation, right? Inflation is going to take some time to show up. I think you just continue to watch the consumer expenditure numbers. GDP is going to be one of the biggest things to watch to see when we get our next GDP reading. I think that's one thing that I'll be watching for to see what happens, because then we'll at least get an adjustment from numbers to talk, right? From talk to numbers. So keep your eyes on that, guys. I think right now the talk is all positive, essentially.
Yeah, again, it's a self-made problem that could be a self-made solution. So it's just that actually, I think, makes it harder to trade, because with 2008, you could, I paid for my entire university in 2008 because the day trading was easy. You'd come out, there'd be another bank that, announces that they're struggling or whatever, makes new lows, you shorten into the new lows, you cover at the end of the day. It was great. The problem is now is that because this is completely self-made and it could be undone, like we saw on Wednesday with just a passing word, you can't just hammer things short. You can't really just be super long, because you have these moves that are happening. So again, for me, I've just sized down my system a bit. I'm just continuing to trade as is, and just trying to ignore as much as I can from the day trading side of things. And then swings, again, this is where I'm getting a little bit more gray, because things like Palantir, I got to make a decision today, right? The Palantir, for example, I'm up big on. It's like the system's telling me to sell it this morning, but what if we get another one of those 10% rippers? So, so there's a lot more decisions to be made than I like as a systematic and quantitative trader.
This is going to be interesting, guys. I think we just got to continue to watch. I think, it's going to be a tough one, right? Because we're just waiting to see what happens. One of my biggest things will be just watching to see when that specific list comes out or something like that. I think that could come out today at any point. Another thing they're going to be looking at is Is there any big conversation happening underneath do we find out that there's a big call happening between Trump and Xi? I think things like that are what you need to be looking for. And all that, to me, all sounds positive. As much as I want to be the bear, right, and bring the bear, I've been lately trying to keep things to what they are, right? Not trying to think too far ahead. If I do, long term still looks a little bit scary. But I mean, whenever that's happened in the past, that's all about being data dependent, right? You got to pull like your own Fed watch, right?
Yeah.
Where I want to be more data dependent here than I want to be, jumping on conversations and talk and what could happen, right? Well, let's just stick it to the numbers now. Now that we don't have so much talk, let's stick to the numbers. I think that's the important thing here.
And there's
or you can just just blow it on the fart, right?
I was going to say the risk on indicator. I'd be embarrassed if I told you the size of my fart coin position, but I'm in the 50s. I've almost doubled it here. So this again, it's been a very good risk on indicator. Something to watch, but it's it was something I wanted to chat about. It wasn't just this; it was all these really dumb coins that make no sense, right? So like, Pepe was up, market cap, Pepe was up, and we had Peanut the Squirrel was doing well, and all these really really dumb coins were kind of getting alive, and I think a lot of it was because of Solana. So this is something else I want to keep an eye on as well to see if we undercut here and then rally back through. That'll be an interesting one. But we're about to open. So as always, we take a look at the SPY rallying into the open here. My super interest is this 550. That's a long way away, kind of. But when it comes to what I'm running my system on today, it's not a lot. It's right Intel, the Qs, and maybe MLGO to the long side. But I'm watching closely. And actually, I've got to turn off my camera for just 1 second. So I'm not going anywhere, guys. I have to use my phone as the 2FA to log into my broker. And I forgot to do that this morning and all that kind of stuff. So just 1 second.
No!
You missed my beautiful face, right?
No worries, man. We're getting ready for the open here. Let's go, guys. Let's see what we can do, guys. We're opening up here, and I'm focusing on MLGO here out the gates. I need this thing to drop right back down here. Opened up 1426, big spike here for me. As I'm short on this one overnight, guys. I took a swing trade on the little small account here. Definitely a little bit bigger spike here out the open than I was expecting. But I still got room to play here. Let's see if this can come crashing right back down through the 14 on MLGO.
Yeah, there so that's one that I am watching right here for potentially the long side.
So you're trying to stuff me, Michael.
Following the systems like a robot. So
hey guys, we'll see what happens here.
I'll do NVDL just because I'd rather do the short side. And then, this bull, I didn't even know that Webull was going live. Webull going live, man. The bull ticker. I think I missed that. Ooh, that's going to be the best trade of the day. Just wait. NVIDIA is going to just crash back down. So I'm working on more day trading systems. You're seeing some of the stuff come through here. So, we'll see what happens. Yeah, so I missed that NVDL. That's unfortunate. But you can see the blue arrow that happened just kind of right off the open. I was going to short that with a pre-market high, but what is missed, right? And I have I'm talking to myself and you guys to not chase this thing lower and to not be too mad if it ends up falling. This is why automated systems are the best systems.
All right, out the gate, seeing energy pull down here. We'll look around in the market. SPY pulling back down a little bit here, guys. Here you guys have it. I'm going to try to take the profits here on MLGO. Let's see if I can do it here, guys. Putting out an order at 1380s here. 1381's on the offer. Ooh, it just moved off of that offering. I'm trying to get it here, guys. I moved it up to 1390s, just trying to get it out here. 1377's on the bid, so I'll go on the bid right now and see if I can get it to come down a little bit here. But trying to get it out here, guys, and take the cash and run here. Not a bad trade already here. Just trying to get it out. There you go. Boom. Got it there, guys. I put it in between the spread, and sometimes you got to do that to kind of get the hit. and boom, just cut that nice little filled order there, guys. 128 on this account. That's almost the 50% of the profit that I need to get, guys. So there I'm up like about 100 now, and just got to keep battling. This is the little small account, and I'm going to keep using this little small account, this little $5,000 account, to do what? To take a lot of these small trades, these little smaller tickers, these penny caps. So small caps, let me know if you guys see anything else moving there. Good little short from Friday's action at 15.10 down there towards 13.86. We'll take it and run. Let's go. Look at this, guys. Straight green on the screen here. Green on the screen, right? Everything from the open here going into the green. That's what I'll be watching here to see if this can stick on, but not looking too bad out the gates here.
Yeah, having a
utilities. Nice little lift there. And cyclicals. Let's see what's going on in cyclical names. Let's see if there's anything specifically. Ooh, footwear, of course, right? I mean, we expected to see Nike down and bouncing back. Nike's getting a nice little bounce there. 56. Nike made a new low on the weekend, like on Friday and Thursday. Like it was right on the lows. So I think they're using those lows to take some bets now on Nike. On is another one that I'm looking at here. This could get the lift over through 45. You can look to see what names can bounce here. A lot of these we're already getting the bounce. We'll keep watching on some footwear names like Deckers.
I ever told you that I really don't like Windows? I'm a Mac guy. And I'm floundering over here a little bit. I'm not able to click nothing. So we'll figure all that out. But I think it's Interactive Brokers being a jerk. But yeah, I'm just watching
it's just
the
what happens when you're on the Mac life, bro.
Yeah, the problem is not everything plays nicely, but I can open up the web version.
Apple pulling back there a little bit. We'll see how these names perform. I think it was a nice overnight kind of gap. So pulling back a little bit here is fine by me.
Yes, this is important to note for everybody, is that there is a web version to trade the pool, which I'm opening now because my Windows instance is being a jerk. So web and mobile, which mobile I always have open, but my phone, that's what I use for my camera. So yeah, make sure you've got backups, right? For me, it just means I just missed that video. It's no big deal.
Therapeutics coming straight down out the gates. Smaller name, but looking around, guys. Let me know if you guys see anything out there in the small game. We're going to keep pushing, guys, looking around in the scanners to see what I can find.
Yeah, the SPY is bleeding down just a little bit here. So we have to pay attention to that. It's getting close. It's got a couple minutes left in this candle to close on the VWAP.
It's not a bad little pullback here.
It's just I have the Qs on the system today, just in case they end up breaking down. Again, just looking for little fades here.
All right, looking around, guys. Looking around for the big move here. We'll see if we find it.
Yeah, the Qs are fading.
There is one stock making a bigger move, MTSR, but I think it's too low volume there. I'm looking at it here. Yeah, too low volume there for me. Way too low volume.
MTSX if you're a real degen. The double leverage Ponzi scheme.
All right, what else we got here on the list here? I'm looking through some of these smaller ones right now. I'm kind of letting the bigger ones kind of play out a little bit here. If there's any area that I see strong a little bit, I see some financials, utilities, communication services getting a little bit of a lift there. So nothing crazy, but T-Mobile getting a little bit of a lift there at 262. So that's not a bad looking chart, at least. It's starting to recover pretty fast.
Yeah, just looking at I know we got Farcoin ripping, so that's what's really important. But you're on the ETF list. Yeah, Qs are selling. Basically, everything's pulling back a little bit. And I don't think it's nearly the end of the world, just because we've had such a big gap up that we're going to fade a little bit and test where that's coming from. Just scrolling down to see what's actually down. And we have rates, GDX, gold miners down a little bit, and MSOS down a little bit.
Bank of America getting a nice little jump move here. And of course, it reports tomorrow. I think this is a nice looking bet here through the 37. It's at 35.76 here. So looking at some financials here, Bank of America, if it can pull back to the 36.50s, I don't mind it. Let's see if we can get this. Would be a kind of a VWAP play, right? So you got a sideways action out the gates, a break above VWAP, sideways here. I need a little pullback. I needed to test the 9 or the VWAP. So those are areas where I'll look for pullbacks to jump in on the party. Bank of America.
All right. I think I got myself fixed, and all I had to do, I dramatically do not like interactive brokers on their platform, but as Canadian, they're the only choice.
MLGO, I think this could go lower here, guys. A little part of me is thinking about taking a bet here, looking for the break through the 1370s. But if I take it, it would have to be with a small amount of my profits, pretty much essentially working off of that. But the MLGO looks good for another breakdown here. Took the profits, so I have a good cushion. Thinking about maybe just taking another short on this, but this is the tough one because the spreads is going to be moving and it's going to be low volume on a leak. So we'll see what happens. Daily chart definitely coming back down.
Yes, we're bouncing a little bit here in the market, just trying to put in a bottom. So very tight risk against that TQQQ short that I took. Again, just risking against the high of the day. Again, looking for those 1-to-1 scalps off the open just to see if we can get something there.
Nice little pullbacks. Nice little pullbacks at the gate. I was looking to see if the VIX could get to the VXX get to 74, and then I wouldn't mind taking a short. But right now, I think it's too early in the game. One of the things that we've been seeing, right, and I talked about this on my Twitter often throughout, especially on Friday. I talked about how the pattern last week was what? Not to trade the first hour of the day. The first hour of the day was the sucker move. It happened all day last week. And that tells me when there's uncertainty at its highest, look for the lunch algos to determine the trend. That's just what I've gotten to. And you know how, remember we talked about how you have to have a playbook for certain environments? Mm-hmm. That's going in the playbook, guys. Write that one down. I'll write that one down. Uncertainty, look for lunch algos to run the trend.
Yeah,
simple
and that's
as that.
The best way to do it. And if you want to quantify it a little bit further, you pick the VIX, right? And say, okay, with the VIX over this, I don't trade until this, right? If the VIX is over X, I don't trade until Y. If the VIX is under X, I can trade whenever. So NVDL would have worked amazingly, but as you can see, I'm fighting. I'm struggling with my platform. Not Trader Evolution. That's been great. I'm glad they have a web version I can pop up, but interactive brokers, because again, I have this system automated over there. I'm up a few bucks on my TQQQ play as that continues to bleed as well. So Intel actually just triggered through here as well. So
nice spike in the TL2 today, at least out the gates there, almost about a full buck here. Could have been a good scalp.
Well, it's good to see for the market's sake that we're having the market sell and TLT not fall apart. Like we did that whole rant about the importance of bonds. And I think it's good that if we can
relationship, right, coming back into play. That's what Mike was bringing in for all you guys out there. Normally, when you look at the TLT, it's going opposite, right? And what we started to see last week, it was starting to go the same with direction, and that was a sign of concern there. So the divergence there coming back in, so relationship back into play there. We'll see what happens, right? It's fun. MLGO finally breaking a little bit further. So I feel like that could be a good trade for me. It's just a tough one, guys. Might take a shot there, but I'm pushing it because I'm just not seeing the flow of order. It's kind of one of those where you just got to let it leak, and that's a tough trade. XLE going down to 79 tells me more and more energy can keep coming down. That's a good thing for inflation overall. As prices hit 60s, I started seeing that, right? And 60s are important. 60s are when they start to, let's say, stop pumping so much, right? Because they don't want to be pumping at cheap rates. We all know what happened with a Trump environment for a while, right? I mean, Trump got the prices down. Maybe he continues that trend. That's one way to keep inflation tamed.
Well, yeah, right. That's the drill, baby, drill idea. Right? It's going to be not ideal for, for a lot of these companies because they're not going to make nearly as much when it comes to that. I have covered half of my TQQ short because I looked how far the target was away, and it's a lot. It's a while away. So, I'm just giving that a bit of room, and the way for me to feel confident giving it a bit of room is to lock in half the profits. So, took a little bit of that as we were selling on TQQQ, and then I've got the stop it because the target on TQQQ is 47.65, so that'd be like a multi-point move.
Nice.
That's the 2-day VWAP. So if we hit there, that's great. And then I've also got the Intel short, and then just waiting for more alerts to come through.
Yeah, and this is trying to put the pain on the early bulls. So they're getting their positions washed out, right? This is how a lot of times pre-market trading can go. If you didn't take your money, well, there's the money, there's the market taking it back. So now I'll be watching to see if that can hold, especially the $50 spot there for me on the TQQQ. And what I'm looking for is a move back through 5150s today. If it can get back through that 5150s, I like it as a long. But I'll be watching to see what happens there, right? It needs to work back. That's what I'm looking at.
And it's funny, that's roughly where 5180s are, was where my stop loss is, right? So same kind of thinking is, you get the initial move down. I'm trying to hold for the 2-day VWAP. I did some back testing. We can talk about some of that when the market kind of calms down. I did some back testing, showed that made me even more confident that there is profits in this. There is just a low win rate, about 40%, if you hold all the way to the 2-day VWAP. And what I've been doing is just kind of taking one for ones. But seeing the equity curve, and again, I'll show you guys in a bit, it made me really, really interested to kind of, hold some, and to make myself confident enough to do that, just take some profits out as they go, right? If you've got to work your way up to having the wherewithal to hold that long, again, some ways, easy ways to do it, are just to take a bit of money off the table, and then all of a sudden I'm in a point now with my TQQ trade that if it comes out and stops me out, it's about a break-even trade, and that makes life a lot easier than trying to just hold the whole time with something, again, like a 40% win rate. That can get complicated.
All right, looking around, guys, trying to catch the next mover, guys, and looking around to make some trades here, guys. And one of the things is, of course, I'm being patient here. Finding a small one here that's moving. ARTL just broke the 130 range, but I don't see too much on this right now. I'm just taking a look at it. Don't want to jump too fast here. Just want to make sure I know what's going on with this one. ARTL, Artello Biosciences. Looks like there's an inside buy or something like that. Oh, a bull. The bull.
So I'm gonna take a look at this. I love my little position sizer that I built up there. 5 shares is what I'm like. If I want to risk $50 on the trade, I can take 10 shares if I want to risk a full 100 on the trade.
Yeah, this one looks good there. Remember, of course, this ran already in the pre-market about 284%. So $15 pullback from that. It's like about the 50% retracement. It went right to the key, guys. 50% retracement. So my man Steve out there is probably yelling in the streets. Watch out, watch out.
Yeah, and the
50% retracement. Look at that. Literally to the key. Right. I'll put a line where that 50% so you guys can see it, because mine's like a dotted line. So you guys could probably, but literally right off of that lowering action right there. So that's going to be an important level to watch now to see if it can hold off that 25.68 level.
Yeah, the target for this is about 21, right? That's the 2-day VWAP.
I like it. I like it. I like the short. I also like the way that this was playing, right? I mean, I can't blame you if you're trying to get along on this too. I'll tell you one thing. A lot of people are going to start watching this thing because it's the biggest move of the day. New IPO, things like that. And so you got to be watching for it here. Did this come off of a SPAC, I think?
Yeah, de-SPAC'd. So
those SPACs. We all know how Michael feels about them SPACs.
Get a big spike up and then it can tank back down to zero. That's fine. But it's one of those things. I've gotten 4 trades already today, right? So I take all these really small. I'm risking like $50 a trade right now. And then the idea is just to have. I'm building this little portfolio. I'm taking half off the positions instead of full when they get a decent little runner on them, and then I'm just setting up the target at that 2-day VWAP and walking away. And just again trying to. You guys saw the whole journey from no idea what I'm doing to building this strategy to completely systematizing it, where I just wait for alerts to come through, and as soon as automation comes to trade the pool, which I'm excited for, be fully automated. I'll just set up the bot in the morning and take the trade. So now what I'm doing a lot of is trying to figure out, well, what's next, right? What's the next idea for the trade, right? What's the next idea that we can potentially take a look at for another setup? Because ideally, like this setup has gotten really, really slow now that we're off earnings. I want to find something else, right? I want to find something else to do.
All right, guys, looking at potentially a long on this bull here as it starts to recover 30. I think it's an interesting spot to look for a long off of. So I'm watching it here. We'll see if I take the shot here, and then I'll take it in the really small account here. Trying to ride this up here. I don't think it's a bad one to look at. I'll take it with a small amount, look to see if I can get a bigger run. About 20 shares is what I'm looking at, so nothing big.
20 shares, yeah. I'm in 10 with my 25K account. So but again, that whole calculation is based off a stop that's many dollars higher, right? So basically looking to not quite the pre-market high, but mostly the pre-market high. So
all right, want a slight dip below 29s here, and then I can take the shot. But I don't want to get in right before this because it could instantly just go to like 28.50s on the bid and start putting pressure really quickly here. So I think I could trade this either or in whichever direction I wanted right now. Because to me, it's kind of like on a symmetrical triangle here. This is pretty much the same move. It just needs to play out here. So patience here could play out. Could help.
Little double bottoming tail there on the 5-minute on the Qs. So could be starting to try to find some support here and push higher.
We'll see if we can reclaim 30 here, guys, on this bull.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So we got 2 pushes under pre-market lows on the Qs, and now we're trying to bounce back up through it.
Look at the break fast there.
We get back through VWAP on the Qs, I'm just going to exit my trade early here. Just probably make another couple bucks on it. Just call it a decent little trade because we failed entirely at the try to break down. So this looks to me like one of those liquidity grab, scoop and score, whatever you want to call it on the Qs, where again we broke that pre-market low. Not sharing here, but this pre-market low here pretty substantially. We broke twice, and look at those 2 bottoming tails. So we've come in, technically speaking, if you want to be a candlestick nerd, that's a tweezer pattern, basically just 2 bottoming tails right in the same area. Came down, failed, and then failed. So failed to break twice now. So if we start to grind higher here, then that just shows that people are waiting for a pre-market low to break in order to get involved to the long side, and they're going to take them up. Conversely, when you see 2 bottoming tails like that, if that ends up breaking, there's probably a lot of stop losses under there. So we could end up still getting to the 2-day VWAP. But again, I've got my short on. For me, if we get high day or any sort of candle close above VWAP, it's time to go, right? But
Ooh,
Steven,
crazy one moving here, guys. USAR, guys. I'm trying to get in here on a pullback. We'll see if I can be able to get the pullback fill here. This thing's just crazy, moving all around. Of course, metals and minerals on a big watch today. USAR, big push there, and then a spike right back down. This thing has been halted once, opened up, came back down to 10, then pushed right back towards the 11 here. We'll see what happens. USAR on the alert.
And bull going against me on that one. So that's probably going for you on that one. But nice little push up. Is that a halt?
THTX. Another one that's moving out there.
Yeah, that's bull is now halted. So I will likely get stopped out on the
yeah, 30
there.
recovery, man. The problem was for me to go long on that bad boy was the spread. The spread was 50 cents wide there for me.
Yeah.
On this account, it made no sense. Like,
Yeah,
you get what I mean? Like, it's tough.
10
it's tough.
shares. Right?
To me, it's a scalp opportunity maybe there, but I mean, it's tough too, because with the 50-cent bid pressure immediately, if you buy off the offer there, you're going to be feeling the pressure real quick without a tick down. That's what I usually say, like, right? So the pressure could be instantly like, 50 cents down to $1 down. And next thing you know, you're feeling like $2 down in the position, right? So you just got to understand that. That's why I was trying to go with like 20 shares. I was like, okay, so that's like about $40. I could handle that, right? But still, it's going to be a lot of pressure there.
It's wild, yeah. And that's the beauty of, right, a good lesson for everyone is just position sizing. I'm in 10 shares. It's not going to hurt me one way or the other, right? And you can trade anything you want as long as you trade it small. Like, what was that crazy? The Newsmax.
Yeah, Newsmax and Max.
We were talking about that. If you had like 2 shares on, you would have made shorting it anywhere in here. 2 shares, you would have made an absolute killing, even on day one. And then if you held it for a while, it would have been a brutal day for longs, and you would have made a great on 2 shares. Would have been a good little
USAR trying to rip here again. I'm trying to get it, but it's just a tough one, guys. Also, another spread of 20, 30 cents there. So, like, a lot of times I'll tell you guys these small caps, I need to see some tighter spreads. These spreads of 30, 40 cents, it just doesn't do it to me, guys. Too much risk for what we're going to get a good fill for.
And I think you'll start to see the smaller caps start to pick up as soon as the market starts to die down, right? Once the volatility of the market goes away, you get people kind of gravitating to junkier names, and then you'll start to see those spreads tighten as more people are trading them. But right now, there's so much juice to be had just trading the overall market that it becomes much, much harder to justify going and trading XYZ junkie name, trying to get 20% or 50% on something that is very, very volatile and dangerous, where you could get 10% sometimes a day in the market, which just sounds ridiculous to say, but we have had a 10% up move. So it's a wild kind of game out there, that's for sure.
My friend, did you ever get that silver that we talked about for the potential gap fill? That was a nice one there.
I bought a bit. Yeah, I bought a bit of SLV.
There you go, my friend. There's that gap fill there. I mean, not a bad little, not a bad little move there. Silver not looking too bad there.
I'm risking the low, and this is a small trade just because we've talked about this a bunch, but I'm looking at like the monthly chart here and saying, okay, what if this thing gets back to like $50? So I'm looking for like a double on silver. So this will take, a year or so. So this is more of in the investment account and not in a super short-term trading account. But yeah, I'm just leaning against these lows now.
The SPACs attack alert out here, man. MP Materials getting a lift today. MP Materials, man. There you go. There you guys have it for a SPAC not under 10.
Oh, there you go. Well, you can see I actually have anytime you see a line with a little alert there, that means my algos on the weekend said, hey, buy this thing if it pulls into 20. It doesn't look like I'm going to get that, but
nah, it's getting a rip.
Looking a little sharp.
It's moving with a lot of these material names this morning. USAR, a part of that also. The only problem with that USAR is I keep seeing quick whipsaws off the 11. It's a 75-cent pullback. consistently. So that's just tough to jump after.
Yeah, the Qs are flirting right here. Now we have a third bottoming tail in this area, so there's definitely been some accumulation going on here. So I love to see that, because again, two things can happen: either they're buying every dip and we're gonna rocket higher on the day, or if this fails, there's going to be a lot of stop losses right below this area of say 459. And then the SPY is doing much better here just overall. But I think that's just because if you do, the days change. There's a lot of sectors that are up. We got Berkshire Hathaway going, and Amazon, some of these non-tech names, energy, CVX, Exxon, all these names moving. So
at least out the gates, the sucker move, right? The sucker move of if you went for tech just based on the knowledge out there, you got stuffed on today out the gates.
Yeah.
That's why I'm waiting to get through this 10 a.m. time, 10:30 time, right? That's the truth. I'm going to be looking to take trades towards that time, and then also not trying to use all my ammo for the day, guys. I took great trades in the afternoon on Friday too. And I think that the important part is when I take those afternoon trades, a lot of the times I'm just set it and forget it on those types of trades. And I think that this market has been that market where it doesn't want to give you the move when there's a lot of people at the seats. Like, you know what I mean? It wants to do the move when everyone's out at lunch or not paying attention. And you're not the only one that feels that way, right? I'm sure a lot of people felt like that way last week when they got the whipsaw of the big breakout. They were probably not at the desk and missed the move. That happens. That happens, guys.
Bull opened up here, close to my stop's just sitting up in this area, so close to just getting stopped on that one. But nice little open and move. My TQQQ doing well here, doing okay, right? So I exited part of my position.
Bull's squeezing, man.
Lows, but
one thing I do want to put on an alert, though, that bull would not be tradable here for those traders out there that are trading on trade the pool. At this point, that would not be able to be getting after this just because it's jumping easily, like out of the 4% kind of limit there. This is jumping in 2 minutes easily 16% right now, close to 20%. And so it's just one of those names that will be a no touch for me. But like I told you guys, wherever it broke out of that symmetrical triangle, it felt like interesting play, but the spread's still like 40-60 cents there. So
if you're 10 shares, right? So if you're trading this, you're trading it like a Newsmax, right? Where we talked about where you're trading a couple shares of this, right? If you're trying to go for 100 shares of this, you're insane. And I guess unless you got like the 200K count, a huge limit, but still, just the spreads, the movement, it's a wild ride here. So
you're going to feel the pressure. It's one of those stocks that if you do take a lot of sizing, you're going to feel it immediately. It could go in your direction, but pressure's big right out the gates. TMC, another materials name in the scanners showing up, the guys.
So question about, is there news on Webull? I don't think so. I think it's just a D-SPAC. It's a fairly low float, kind of just one of those crazy deals that everyone's like super excited about. So you got all the degens really, really happy and loving life, and then they'll move on to something else in a couple days. The question is just what and when, right? So it's just one of those. Just like there was no news on Newsmax, it was just a crazy trader. It was just a insanely volatile type of move. So it's not really a news thing. It's just the crazy mover du jour, right? So Intel, I have here again a 5-minute close above VWAP on Intel or the TQQQ. I'm just going to exit those. Both of those positions, and then so TQs or win, Webull was loss, and then Intel will probably be about a flat. So puts me about a meh for today, if I had to describe it, right? You can see I'm not really excited one way or the other. I'm not excited nor depressed. I'm just kind of waiting. See if another couple trades come through. If not, then I think a do nothing Monday is totally fine by me. But Intel, I'm gonna kill that there. Looks like we're looks like we're bouncing a bit on Intel, but funny enough, not so much the Qs. The thing that I missed this morning while I was struggling to set everything up was the NVDL or NVIDIA basically right at this zone. That's kind of unfortunate, but it's the way she goes.
Looking at USAR, it's just hanging out here on the 90 MA. It's made a couple of attempts to go to 11. It's come down as far as 1024. I'm wondering here, do we get another lift off here in USAR? The pre-market high had it all the way up there towards 1161. That's why I'm looking at it. Could get to 11 and 1160s really quickly here. I'm going to take a shot here, guys, on the smaller one. So I just took a shot there. I'm long on the 1070s. Going to look to see if this can break the 11 here and go for the move here. Let's see what happens.
Best rare earth. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, so the Qs, I got stopped out the rest flat, so right half off for a profit. I just took the rest out flat. Intel's close to being stopped out as well, and then Weeble I got stopped out of. So
TQQQ starting to come back towards the VWAP. At least it's working its way. We'll see what happens on that one.
Yeah, that's why I knocked that out. So Qs look like that could be a little bit, and that's kind of the next setup that I'm looking for here, is that, you know, scoop and score type of move, the undercut of the pre-market lows and then rally back through, right? How many times, if we've been watching the show, how many times have we been talking about that? Right? We undercut the pre-market lows, and now we're pushing back through. So, right, I got part of my TQQ out here for a nice little profit, and then I just clunked out the rest there, break even. But it's one of those, and if I was flipping down here because we were dealing with that, then that might have been a much better way to deal with that. And yeah, Weeble is just ripping.
All right, so far, guys, seeing a little pullback on USAR. Glad I went at it with small sizing, giving me the ability to get around some of this pullback here. We'll see if it holds VWAP here and gets a move to 11.
So yeah, feedback just for myself and my own trading. I know I should stay away from these crazy ones. I've said it to you guys all the time. So that was the only loss. Again, I can't avoid every loss. That's just the nature of it. But and it was sized correctly, so I'm okay with that as well. But yeah, just one of those. Hey, Mike, just remember, don't trade those guys. And I go for mainly the bigger caps because I'm just trying to scalp, so I need the calmness and the liquidity, and neither of those things you could describe people with.
All right, banks starting to do well. I'm thinking about taking a bet on Goldman Sachs, but it would have to be a very small position looking for a bigger move. So I'm going to try to set that up here in the other account here. Let me see if I can get that. It's a tough one to grab. Of course, I had earnings today, has pulled back here. So looking to maybe jump on this move here.
So NVDL is interesting here. We're getting back through VWAP to the upside. So just showing we're getting a bit of a lift here for everybody. I think it's something interesting to keep an eye on. If we end up getting back through highs, do we rip her? Do we rip her good? But I don't know if that's a bet that I would take right now. I don't know if it's kind of like what you're saying, Mitch, where everything's going to be a bit choppy. But the Qs are back up through VWAP. We have the SPY back up through VWAP. Looks like they're flirting with the highs. And we have NVIDIA. It's right at VWAP and potentially failing here. So I'm mainly just watching this one because, all right, I missed the short. But you should always, even if you miss it, you should watch the trade. You know, I know it hurts that you're like, oh, especially when it works out. You're like, oh, that sucks. It would have been great. But you should watch it just so that you've got some understanding of what would have happened if you got it. So you have some kind of game plan to take after that.
All right, we'll keep a watch on Goldman Sachs there. Looking at USAR to go for the rip. Let's go for the rip at USAR.
It's got the right name. That's for sure.
All right, let's see if we can do it, guys. Let's see if we can do it. All right, just dipped a little bit there. Just dipped a
The
little
market's
bit there.
backing off just a little bit here. Like the market got close to high days and just backed off a little bit.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. USAR. Let's go for that 11 rip. This thing did do a halt about $1, and it came quick. It came in 1 minute. So let's see what happens there. If it can get back towards that 11, that's where I could see the breakout coming. See if it can push through this level. Pre-market 1157 high.
It's a nice looking setup. It's holding VWAP well.
Yeah, honestly, the spread's starting and tightening out, but you could still get a pullback to 1020s. I'm still continuing to watch that. That's around where the VWAP is. I'm liking that it's closing. It continues to close above 1040s. That's a good sign. It just needs to take out 11. Goldman Sachs pulled back there, but not far enough there for me to jump on it just yet. I loved for an attempt dip to 500 and then see it make the move. Bank of America doing well. The bank's starting to come back. I'm watching for that to see what happens in financials.
Yeah.
TLT pulling back a little bit, of course. We'll see if the SPY can break the high.
Yeah, we have the Qs here looking good. It's like we broke VWAP. Let's go to like a 1 minute chart. Right, we broke VWAP and now we're coming back down to test it from the other side. So we want this test to be successful and then start to grind higher. That would take that potentially to highs today. So in a perfect world, that's what would happen for me owning stuff.
Come on, USAR. I feel like I'm rooting over here for USSAR. I'm seeing P3 Health Partners get a lift there. It's PIII. That's nothing. That's a split. That's a split getting the move. I wouldn't trust that at all. That's a tough one.
low volume there. That's for sure.
Come on, USAR.
So there's the Qs triggering again to the short side. I don't think I'm going to take it. I think I'm past kind of my window to take trades, but that would be
Apple dropping there. Apple just broke lows. Just to mention that Apple breaking lows there, guys.
Yeah, that's probably what's weighing down on the Qs a bit. I just can't. It's one we saw so much support there, right? I took my trade, took my shot. Intel lost, TQQQ won, Webull lost. So down a little bit today, and then just waiting to see if there's any more alerts today. I don't think there will be, but that's fine.
I'm just waiting here, guys, and waiting to play out some other trades here. I think a lot of this is what I expected. A little bit of that top uncertainty, and we still haven't heard from what happened with the White House situation and what happened with tariffs. I think you continue to watch to see if there's anything else mentioned.
Yeah, I've been keeping my eye on the world at large and not really seeing too much. Oh, there's Fannie Mae. So was it Ackman who's been big on this thing? Poor Ackman, man. He's been trying to do backflips to defend everything that's going on.
Oh, poor rich man.
Yeah, he was talking about, oh, what a great move to exempt all the semiconductors from whatever. And then Trump tweets, there is no exemption. He's like, oh, how do I spin this so it sounds good too?
That's how it's been going lately.
Yeah, but Fannie Mae's been a big one. SPY here bleeding a bit, bleeding down to lows, so we need to watch that as well. Yeah, not seeing a whole lot of news.
Still not pulling back enough as Goldman Sachs for me to even take a shot on it, guys. I'm just hanging out here in the smaller account in this USAR, but even then, on that one, it's not wanting to run, and I'm getting to the point where I'm about to just cut it. If it doesn't make the move in the next like 2 or 3 minutes, I'm just gonna cut it, guys. It's one of those where the ticking time bomb's starting to go off.
Yeah. Well, that's right, and we talk about that a lot. The kind of stop that not a lot of people think about are shot clocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So USAR, all right. Time stops. I think it's technical USAR. Right, we all know about the regular stop and the trailing stop and all that kind of stuff, but I think time stops are something that is dramatically underutilized, and then also, you know, some people call them a shot clock, and you just look at it, and this is something that you look with your trading and say, if it doesn't work in X period of time, I'm out. And I originally got the idea just from Peter Bryant, who's, again, he's been trading. He's like 80. He's been trading for 60 years, 20% gain. He's in the Market Wizard books, 20% gain for 60 years. One of his philosophies is that if he holds any stock that is red on a Friday, he kills it. He's like, I can buy it back Monday, any trade. I can buy it back Monday if I want. But let's just get out because I've given it a couple days and it hasn't worked, and I don't want to carry that into the weekend. And we can do the same thing with day trading. You take your trade. If you've got your stop loss in place. If 10-20 minutes goes by and you don't get the move that you expected to see, you can kill it. Doesn't mean you can't get back in, right? Maybe you set an alert for another price move or something, because you're wasting capital, like actual capital, but then you're also wasting a lot of mental capital as well, where you're saying, I need, like, something should happen and should happen fairly quickly, and I'm taking my time staring at this thing. So if that's not going to work, well, then I got to get out some other way, right?
Yeah, I agree. We'll see what happens here, guys. It started to pop there towards it, hit 1090s. We'll see if we can hit the 11s here, guys. I don't want to take profits until I break 11 at least. So just going to watch here. Don't want to put break even either because it keeps spreading out and going right into my break even spot. So the only thing you'll do is just trigger break even out. And then I'm not giving myself the chance for the move here. I think I continue to watch it here and see if it can hold the trend line break, which is exactly what it's done already. A pullback on that could be to 1063. So I know I'm in at 1065, not the worst risk to return here. We'll see what happens. Let's see if it can really start to move above the 11s. That's the break that needs to come with some volume. We got an attempted volume push into the first push. Let's see if we can get another volume push.
Qs here are not being your friend. They're not helping you on that long. They are hindsight.
Yeah.
I probably should have taken that second signal, but
what I'm watching is the basic materials too, right? It's in metals and minerals, and this is the equally weighted outlook that I have here. So watching to see if it can hold this 9 EMA and kind of keep pushing higher for these metals and minerals.
Those looking for an ETF, metals and mining ETF, XME is a great one for that. It kind of does the same thing. So this is what all these different miners and all of that kind of, anyone who pulls rocks out of the ground are going to be part of this. So it's a decent thing. There's always an ETF. Sachs moving. Oh yeah, Goldman Sachs.
All right.
Back to the UAP failing.
I will be right back, guys. Give me 2 seconds here.
Cool. So yeah, Fannie Mae, this thing has been just insane recently. Again, I forget what billionaire was all about this thing, but $1 up to 7 has been a super great trade. But really, it's all about the Qs right now. Everything is kind of lining up with the overall market. So you can see we're struggling now back into this low where we found a lot of buyers before. So I'm looking for, if we break this 259, then we're probably going lower on the day. And then I'll be kicking myself for getting out of my TQQQ short, like right around here. But I was keeping risk small, right? It's Monday, kind of dipped my toe back in. But the question is, the buyers that push this up initially and cause this double bottoming tail here that I was talking about, are they back? Right? Are they in this zone? Is this kind of a FOMO area where people are starting to buy? Or is this just, a little bit of a relief bounce, trying to get through this pre-market low? It's going to take a couple shots to do it. We won't know for a little bit, but if we do, again, break down here, then I will be interested to see what happens from the short side of things, because you got to imagine below this area, below the low of the day, below these wicks, there's going to be a lot of shorts. That's why I'm thinking that if this breaks, it continues a little bit. Maybe a gap fill, maybe 2-day VWAP, but that's kind of a long way away. But you can just see the battle that's happening here, the kind of war. Like, this is the 1 minute chart, couple bottoming tails. We sold off a bit. Now we're bouncing a bit. So this, 460 area is just getting bought up for now. So we've got that kind of buyer and seller war happening. So the question is, who wins? And then I think that will kind of set the tone for the day a bit. Back above VWAP, maybe we continue to take a shot at today's highs. Back under this area right here, again, 259-ish. Then I think we make new lows, and then maybe come down here to fill the gap. And that's 455, so that's a big one. The other thing is, we could just be in a holding pattern, right? We had a bunch of news this weekend that is unconfirmed, and people are waiting to hear from somebody to say, hey, is something going to clarify whether or not we got an exemption or not? For those who missed it, there was a report out that said there was going to be a bunch of exemptions, and then a tweet out that said there wasn't going to be a bunch of exemptions. So that kind of has the whole market scratching their head a bit. God, can you imagine trying to be the press secretary for this administration?
All right, guys, I'm a little late to the ball here, guys. I wanted Goldman Sachs through 501, and that's already back to 504. So I'm fighting myself not to chase it here, but I just hate when I miss plays like that. That was literally a play that I was looking for. Took a step from the desk there. It went right to that 501. Now I'm just looking at it. That was about 2 or 3 minutes ago. So we'll see if it starts to recover 504. I think this could really start to spike kind of the XLF. I'm looking at it. JP Morgan could catch a break off the bottom there. XLF can be another way I could play this, but I might have to go for the XLF.
Randy, no, I don't play with Bookmap. I know Steve does. He'll be on tomorrow. We can ask him about it.
Yeah,
I
come
understand
on over,
the
my
tool.
friend.
I think it's a great tool to use for those who want to be, systematic, or be, I guess, more discretionary about your trading. For me, it's just I fully want to systemize anything. I look at every time that I got to push the button to take a trade as like a failure. Is kind of the way I look at it. So it's just a different kind of beast. Is that it's all about where you think you're good at, and I think it's all about also where you find joy from trading. I don't find joy from the actual act of trading and staring at the charts and hitting the button. I find joy of this is a strategy I think I can implement for a long period of time and take trades of. And the problem I just would have with something like Bookmap for myself personally is, it's telling you where bids and asks are and where people are buying or on the bid or selling on the ask or whatever. But it's just nothing I could automate. So I just don't want to really waste a lot of my energy looking at it. So it's just one of those different pieces. USAR, they're saying, is ripping. Well, there you go. Are you still in?
Yeah, I'm still in, guys. And I also took the XLF there, guys. So trying to take and ride that one out. I'm about to take some profits off here, guys. Let's go ahead and cash here. Boom, cash there. Cash there in USAR. It did get towards the 1226 there that I should have been able to cash a little bit before that. But my thing was I didn't want to go into a halt there, and I got to be careful for taking too much money. Yes, that's the truth. I made too much money there. It was up like 170, and I can't take 170s. I have to take below 150s. So I took there the 103 on the pullback. I got some slippage there. because the bid was wide. It was like 26 cents. So got some slippage there, but took it out there. And I got to celebrate the win, man. That's not a bad one. Remember, I said that I wanted to ride it to the pre-market high. I took it out there at 1169, and on this USAR pre-market high was right through 1157. So as long as I got it over that, I hit my target, and I don't have to worry about the extra pennies. That was the intended target. Nailed it. Got it. Let's go, guys. Let's go.
Yeah,
on that
so
account,
great trade.
I'm almost back, guys. I got to show you guys the way that one's been working. It's been interesting. But $229 on that account and the $5,000 account today. So let's keep working. Let's go.
Yeah, Fannie Mae did break down there. For those who don't know why Mitch said he's making too much money, is you got a consistency rule, right? So you can only make half of what your goal is on the evals on any single trade. So that's something that when I'm taking the evals, I just immediately, wherever, if the thing's trading, just in case something goes wild, you're right. You take whatever that account is, right? If you're trying to make $1,000 on the account, you can't make more than 500 on a trade. So you make sure that if the stock's getting to that level, you want to punch out a little bit before, because what you'd have to do is just make more than that $1,000 to make that 50% work. So it's one of those. The idea behind it, for those who are wondering, oh, why do you have to do that? Is stop people from buying accounts, which we know they would, and just plowing everything into one trade. And if they pass in one trade, great. And then if they fail in one trade, they're just going to buy another account, and then just gaming the system as opposed to learning to trade in order to trade firm capital, right? That's the goal.
All right, guys, I just got a test there on my position for the XLF here. It's coming right back towards the move here. I'm going to risk about $50 on this first trade here. I don't want to risk too much here, but if it gets back to the 23s, I got to cut out here. It did do a kind of a wick attempt here to get me out. Now let's see if it can come back. That's the truth. It did try to scare me out there. I'll be as honest as I can be on that move. I was like, about to. No, all right, I'm gonna hold on right quick. And it bounced right back to my levels here. Let's see if it can get back above 47.30s. Got as high as 47.40s there, but I didn't see that move. Of course, this is the battle of having two accounts, taking two separate trades, and not being able to close or open in a systematic way, right? It's just going to be the battle that you have to be able to handle. We'll see what happens now. Right back towards my entry here. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to downsize here just to take off some of the risk. Boom. Just took it off, half of it off there. Whenever I feel like a pressured look came to me, one of my things are, if I can come back towards my entry, just lower risk, right? Doesn't mean I need to get out of the position, but lowering the risk there, I can always add. Now, what I can't do is just take that hit all the way down to that bottom again. I don't want to take that hit down. And now that I do, if I do ride it to that bottom, it's what? Half of that loss, right? And that I can hold to. So, which is only about 33. When it was just a second ago about 70, right? Or 66, right? And so there you guys have it. Now I can let this trade work off the 47.20s and look to see if it breaks back above the 47.40s.
Asking about Wolf, Terra Wolf. I just went through and I just brought up a bunch of miners. Seems to be the weakest one. So for me, just the way I look at markets, I'd want to buy one of the strongest ones or buy one with an insane short float like Mara or something. Yeah, if you look at Wolf, this is that, Bitcoin miner, rough industry, and this thing is getting beat up even more than the rest. Right? Mara, again, it's a rough business, capital intensive. It's a lot to it. For me, it's like if you want to get exposure to Bitcoin, I think you either just buy like an IBIT or something if you don't want to put your money in exchange, or you can buy like Robinhood or Coinbase or something like this that's actually pretty strong. Again, these Bitcoin miners, and this comes again from someone that worked for a Bitcoin miner. It is a rough business. It's you have to buy all these really expensive GPUs and you run them full tilt every day and they blow up and you've got to have people there all the time, and then cooling and power, and it's just a big deal. So they're just for little trades, right? If you think it's overdone here, take a shot. but I just look at it and say, okay, this one's almost down on the day. Mara gapped up and looks like it's going to continue. Riot has gapped up and is doing a little better. Hut, that's the other one. Hut 8 is gapping up and doing okay. But all these things
42 said hut.
pretty bad downtrend. So
All right, guys, we'll see what else is making a move out there. TMC still on the scanners. Third, it seemed like PLTU on the scanners.
Farcone's going. That's all that matters.
All right, I'm seeing the Qs start to come back. SPY held that 1 hour low. Now, I think that after the first hour of the day, right, traders starting to get out. What do they got? They got the suckers move. The suckers move, nothing, essentially. So now, let's start seeing if we get some pickup. Let's start seeing if we get an earlier pickup than we were last week. Last week, it was closer towards 12 that we were really getting the bigger move. Started around 11:30s, usually giving you the stronger move towards the lunch hour. So now I'm taking a shot here, guys. I'm long on the XLF, about to add back those 300 shares that I took off there. Boom. Now adding it as we get towards the 47.37. Now I can risk off the 47.30s, keep it tight, and look for the run. If it doesn't just immediately run, I just get out and we'll see what happens here. Seeing the TQQQ starting to make a move there also gives me a little bit of some sign of confidence. Goldman Sachs holding the move that I talked about, that 501 dump attempt, really quickly recovered 504. You got up there to 507, back down to 503. Now you're pushing towards 507. And this could start climbing back, especially if you look on the hourly on Goldman Sachs. It's a really nice looking chart here, guys. Look at Goldman Sachs hourly chart. You can see how it came back to the support, held that kind of sideways action here. It could come back to these hourly wicks, which are 517 on the high end. So you're talking about $10 to the upside potential. We'll see what happens.
And they beat top and bottom line. They beat earnings by 14%.
Yeah.
And beat revenue as well. So there's got to be a lot of people happy there.
Yeah, that's why I'm watching a name like JPM. We'll see what happens.
Qs are flirting, trying to get through VWAP. Just a battle, right? It's been a battle on kind of both sides today. I just have to bet long. We have that big resistance overhead, but we haven't quite hit that. So we have to bet to the upside there.
Woof, woof.
Oh, yeah, let me mute for a second.
You're good, my friend. You're good. Yeah, I got you. I'll mute you for a second. Just hard mute, unmute when you're ready. It's on StreamYard. All right, guys, we'll see what happens here. Can we get the move? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'll tell you one thing. Don't want to risk too much, guys. Today's one of those days where I'd rather take a small red day than take a huge red day, right? So I'm holding towards my levels here, looking for the move to happen. If not, willing to cut it. And on the smaller account that we made really good trades on the small names, I'm just going to leave it alone. No need to push it today. No need to make the whole account in one day. I'm close to getting that little small account funded. I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait until the right setup presents itself now.
That'd be an interesting series too. Maybe we start recording that of, like how you could climb the ladder. And then, if you had to start again, a lot of people look at that 200K account and go, man, that's, it's a lot of money. It's, maybe I'm not there yet, but you start with the 5K account, $50. You grind that, maybe you pull couple hundred out of it over time. You take that, you buy a bigger account, and then right, hopefully pass that one, grind it up, buy a bigger account. Right? That's how you would make sense to kind of climb that ladder while proving yourself, right? It's just to start to push. They're asking for your target on XLF.
The high 47.60. I would like to sell it there, right there. I don't need to get the breakout. Of course, I could maybe sell half there and keep a runner, just a mentality wise, right? But looking for it just to get back to the intraday high, which was a push to 47.60s. And if it could get back to there, that's a nice 30 cents to the upside for what I'm risking right now towards the 30s, or even on the top risk there. That was maybe about 10 to 12 cents risk. So 3-to-1 outlook, essentially. It has to get going though here. It's kind of slow, and so I'm looking for the quick move. If it can take 47.40s here, I can literally just go break even on the rest and let it work.
Yeah, market's starting to perk up a little bit. I got Weeble up here pushing
The bull.
Highs continuing. So today might not be the day. Part of me wants to put it on the list again tomorrow. Part of me wants to learn my lesson and just not trade these crazy guys anymore. Probably do my lesson. Hey, this is for the chat. When I'm going through that list in the morning, if you see any of these crazy dudes on there, that's your job, right? To tell me. Hey, Mike, this particular system you're working on doesn't work well with these insane guys. The Qs are holding VWAP now. That's what I think needs to happen. A couple minutes above VWAP, another couple candles above VWAP, we might take a shot at highs. When I say the Qs, right, the SPY is doing the same thing, and that'll be really good for your XLF trade.
All right, guys, I just took off about 200 of that. I had gotten back to the 600. So what I did was I stepped down a little bit there because the time stop kind of mentality, right? So every time that I feel like the ticking time bombs are going off on me and I'm too big sized, I'm going to downsize every time. That's one of the new rules that I'm trying to implement and habits that I'm trying to implement. A big part of that is that it's okay to get big size, but I need to see instant gratification when I'm at that big size. If not, just downsize and look for the play to work. Once the play works, don't worry about being too big. Let the play just work out. That's one thing that I've noticed more and more in my trading is that I can trade well. I just need to be careful with going too big too quickly on a lot of trades. And if I can do that, I can just keep playing my probabilities, and probabilities will keep me in the green.
That is a lesson for life. Everyone should have listened to that, right? It's a lesson for life with trading. Is whatever size you think you should be trading with, you should probably be trading with a half or a third of that.
Yeah.
And that does a lot of things, right? It helps with the mental side of things. You know, like Weeble, for example. That one would have been hard if I wasn't trading 10 shares. If I was trading 100 shares, I probably would have blown my account all in one day, right? It's but even more than that, just the risk on it is the fact that you're just trying to keep yourself kind of mentally grounded, and you shouldn't care about any trade. You know, it's like, I made on this trade, I lost on this trade. I'm never like super happy or super down, and that's something that I learned a lot about. If you care about a trade, you've done it wrong. You've got to go back to the drawing board. You're just kind of too big. And you have to figure out how to get a little bit smaller, because we're playing a game of probabilities. So our goal should be to take as many trades as we can, very small, to let those probabilities play out. And the example I use for that is just the coin flip game. Right? If I were to play a game with you, and every time we flipped a coin, if it hit heads, I gave you $2, and it hit tails, you gave me $1. That's a great game. And, you know, you could trade it that small and make a whole bunch of money if you did it over and over again. You know, what you don't want to do is have it so when you know, if it hits heads, I give you 200 grand, but if it hits tails, you give me 100 grand. Because if you lose a couple in a row, you know, you got to sell your house. So yeah, by keeping the things small, it just lets you play out those probabilities. And that's the nature of the game. It's just don't care about any one trade. Just over time, you have some edge, hopefully, that you have some test behind, and you just let that edge play out. And it should be, that's what I tell people all the time, trading should be incredibly boring. You know, we try to make it interesting. We talk a lot about the actual act of trading. If you find your heart rate spikes every time you take a trade, you're just too big. You're too big. You gotta go back down.
All right, guys, give me 2 seconds. I set a stop there at 47.30s. I'm going to let this work towards above 47.40s, and I'll be right back. Just continuing the work, guys. Continuing the work.
So SPY, we continue to slowly break above VWAP. I think this high right here has been is an important one, and it's one of those, right? If you're feeling a little bit frustrated today, don't. You know, we've had an opening drive lower and then a bounce, and then we've just kind of been stuck in this range. So this is one of those days where you've got to be patient. The only kind of bet that I see right here is if you take a bet that we're going to break highs, if you take a bet that we're going to break lows, and you put out a really wide stop and walk away, I think that's a fine kind of bet to have. But intraday action, there's just not a lot here. So we just have to be really, really patient and just wait for some type of move to kind of tell us what's going to happen, right? So we got the Qs there. And again, we're just popping around VWAP, the SPY. We're also just popping around VWAP. The XLF is going to move a lot with this. If those things lift from VWAP, you'll probably see a move in XLF as well, right? A lot of these things are going to be correlated. We go to the heat map, right? You can see, well, fart coin up 16%, which is great. As a fart coin aficionado and holder, yeah, we have, right, everything is up pretty much. UNH is down, CNBC, CSA is down. Most things are up and up okay, nothing wild, because it's important that we always go out. I always like to do this with you guys. We're day traders. You got to still focus on the daily chart, right? Again, I see a lot of resistance up at this 550. So makes me think that we're at least going to challenge it. If not today, over the next couple days, challenge that 550 area. See if all of this, the VWAP, the prior lows, if this stuff acts as resistance in through there. But it's really promising that we've so far been holding this low. So we gapped up today. We tried to break the pre-market low. The SPY didn't. The Qs did, just by a little bit. And now it looks like we're coiling back up to go to highs. So maybe we're going to push maybe today. Again, it seems like a big goal for today, but that's the market we're in. Things are absolutely wild. So I wouldn't be surprised if we did it today, even though that's a pretty big move. I'm always doing like these kind of drawings just to remind us how big these moves are. That'd be a 2% gain to challenge that 550 resistance, which, yeah, is a lot. It's, you know, it's one of those, doesn't look like a lot when you look at the chart, but a 2% gain in the market used to be a big deal. You got a 2% up day, 2% down day, the news would be talking about it. Now you get a 2% up day or down day, and people think everything's lame. So now I'm just kind of scrolling through here to see if there's anything else going on. CYBN is being talked about a lot. So that's one of those psychedelic names. Nice little bounce there we've seen in that guy. So, you know, we take a look at what we had the CEO that ran this ETF with the PISL, I think. PISL. SIL. God, type, Michael. There we go.
All right.
Psychedelics seem to be taking a move. Don't know why. Just on stock twits here. I like to look at their trending. We've got a couple of these names, MindMed and MindMed and Cybin, CYBN. Some of these names are trending through here. Palantir's holding on nicely. Fartcoin is up 17% today. It's a good day to be long. So now we just need the markets to participate, right? The SPY is pulling back a little bit here now, so the market's not moving with a lot of these moves. But it's one of those days you see like psychedelics and Fartcoin ripping, then you know it's probably a bit of people are feeling a little bit risk on here.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're just waiting for the bigger move. I think a lot of traders are doing what I'm trying to do too, is right, be patient in the first hour of the day, waiting to see what happens in the afternoon, and also waiting to see if we get news from Trump, right? And the news has a lot of times come when? In the afternoon, just giving you guys that insight so that you guys can understand patterns that are happening. Usually patterns happen again, right? Let's see if we can finally get this move in the XLF, guys. It's been hanging in here, now putting in a decent bar here that I need to see it become a bullish engulfing candle, break above 47.40s, going to 47.50 here. If not, I'm just going to let go, break even, guys. So at this point, what does the day become? It becomes either green or zero. And if it becomes that, guys, I will take that any day. A lot of the times, especially if you're feeling like you don't have the edge on the day, there's no specific trade or things like that. Well, you just take your trades, you see what happens. You try to be limiting the risk side of things. If you get a couple rewards, hey, you take it and you keep moving, right?
Well, yeah, and you're talking to me today, right? So I took one small winner and two small losers, and I'm just like, yeah. So I'm gonna end today down a few bucks and just, be okay with that. I think that's the most important thing, is figure out a way to be okay with that. Just go, wasn't a day for my system. And when you look at the market here, it makes sense, right? My idea is that you get a gap up and some sort of break of VWAP, and you get a flush there on some of these names. And we didn't get that, right? We broke VWAP on the SPY. We pulled down a little bit, undercut the pre-market low here by like a tick. And now we're just sitting around VWAP. So the longs wouldn't have worked. The shorts wouldn't have worked. So now I just wait. The only bet, like if I wanted to make a big bet, it would probably be long the market here, just to see, like I was talking about when you were away there, this high, this 550 area, right? So we just got to see if we do get that lift from the market. Do we break pre-market highs and then challenge that 550? Or is this just a rest day? Is everyone just like, I don't know what's going on with this tariff stuff. So until I hear anything from Trump, I'm not doing nothing. And I don't think that's a wrong move to make either, because you're going to have, we know this binary event's going to probably happen at some point today. And you don't know when. There's nothing scheduled. So you just wait. It's a lot of trading is waiting and waiting.
Yeah, I think right now my ticking time bomb is going off, guys. It's just how it goes sometimes. And you guys can see it here. I have the stop set. There's very rare times that I get to this point where I have stop set 0 and it's so close to me. So it's either just go or no go in my mind. It either just makes the move in my direction or it comes back and breaks me out of the trade. And breaking out of the trade in a moment where you don't feel like this is 100% the trade is important. Now, what are the things that are going to give me conviction? SPY closing above on a 1 hourly candle now towards 544. That would be a great move, right? TLT actually coming down back through that 87 and starting to cut down as the SPY comes up here. We'll watch for moves like that. Goldman Sachs, let's say, starting to climb back towards 510. I still say that Goldman Sachs trade, well, would have been pretty. It's at 507.20s. And if you look on the 15 minutes, now we got nothing but green bars coming back off of that 500 kind of bottoming action. We'll see if we can get the move. It's okay if it stops me out break even here. A lot of traders would get upset if it gets back there to 47.60. But the truth is, if it's either going to go or no go here, because the wash is a wash back through 47. I'm not going to risk there the cash there for no reason. Now we'll see what happens there. Looks like we're getting a little bit of some chop. JPM could be another sign that tells me, okay, well, maybe we're not coming back. You see how JPM's not by VWAP. That's another good sign there. Well, I'll respect my move there. I'm out of the trade. Could get back in it if I wanted to. But there's no point in risking too much today. Of course, I have that flex account. And what does that flex give me, guys? Gives me that ability to say that if there's going to be days where it's zero trading, I will take that day. Very few days you will ever see me do those no trade days. But today was one trade on XLF, break even on the main account, and that's it. I will be okay with that because I'm looking for opportunities that make sense for me. Today was not it. And the action that we're getting in the TQQQ also tells me more and more, it's just not it. So I'll be waiting on the sideline. We'll see what happens on that XLF. Could break to the 47.60s. Another good sign could be Bank of America going higher. That was one of the strong names. Why? Of course, earnings tomorrow before the bell. So we'll see what happens with that. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and hop out of here. But Michael will run you into the close, guys. It's 10:46. We got just a couple more minutes here, and we'll see what happens with the market. I'll be back tomorrow, of course, guys. And on Tuesday, of course, we're on Trader TV. I come on there at 8:45, and then we'll start up the show at 9 a.m. Michael and Steve will be here, and then I'll be joining in. But if you guys want to come over to Trader TV and join us, of course, Michael's on there all the time. Of course, give him a good follow so you guys can keep up with that action. I'll be on Trader TV tomorrow, 8:45, and looking to do another great interview. I've been 2 for 2 on small cap huge runners on that show. So I'm like,
pressure.
Yeah, right? It does bring it to me. But what I bring up, right? Patterns, themes, what's going on in the market, because that can bring you guys money, even if you don't catch that small one. What did I say? There was a multiple pattern of over 100% runners that keep working. Look for maybe the next 100% runner, not to just come crashing down, but potentially to continue working. Exactly what we got last week. We'll find out this week, guys. You guys go ahead and finish off with Michael. I'll see you guys back tomorrow morning.
Later, man. All right, let's pop in here. Oh, there we go. Oh, perfect. Yeah, so we're waiting to see what move happens from VWAP, and this is a good question that we can ask here. But why is the market so slow today? I think there's two reasons. One is, after massive moves in the market, having chill outs, having the market calm down makes perfect sense. And we've had some massive moves, right? It seems like the market's not doing anything, but if you just mark the low to high here, it's been over 1% already. And if you look here, right, we got the Qs up 2%. We got the MES, the AES up 1.5%. We have Bitcoin up 2% and breaking out. So it feels like part of it is, it feels like the market's slow. Because the market over the last couple of weeks has been insane. The other reason that I think that things are not happening yet is because we had all this confusion on the weekend. So the White House issued this kind of press release of there would be some exemptions on different tariffs on electronics and things like that. That's great. The other way is that, then on the other side, on the flip side, you had the president tweeting or truthing or whatever you call it, that there were no exemptions. So the market's kind of waiting for some sort of clarity to come out of the White House to say, is there exemptions? And if so, on what? I think that's very important. And then if there's not exemptions, then okay, it needs to know that kind of for certain as well. So conflicting information, the market's generally going absolutely insane. So even though we've had a 1% high to low move and we're up 2% on the day, just doesn't feel like much. And then again, I think a lot of people are waiting for this thing to happen. So for me, if I was forced to take a trade here, again, I'm not. It's just I trade my systems, and that's all I do, whether it's swing trading or day trading or investing, whatever it is, I just trade my system and kind of move on. I would just wait for a higher low break, right? I'd mark right here, there's the lows, and then I'd mark right here, and those are the highs, and I'm just going to wait for some move in either direction here, and as long as we be in the middle, I just would walk away. One of those, you could set alerts so they get pinged to your phone, go to the gym, right? Have a good time, do whatever. If the market breaks, then you kind of take a trade, right? So was it the better day trading show than the one you were just at? It's we'll be nice. There's just different styles to everything, right? But so for me, it's, as a systematic trader, I'm just in wait and see mode. I showed you all the trades today, and nothing really happened too much that was super great either way. Right, we have Nvidia here. I know you're trolling, Brad. So I missed my Nvidia short. That would have been kind of the ticket. This morning, I took Intel short instead. Got a small loss there. I took that Webull short. I just, again, shouldn't be trading these things. Stopped out there, and then I took TQQQ long with a little bit bigger size and got some money on that, and then stopped out the rest for break even. So again, not a great day. And again, my plan would be mark the highs, mark the lows, set orders at those if you want, and then go from there. But yeah, bull is insane, and this is one of those things that in the morning when I'm doing my scanning, I just need to remind myself I have the data on this particular strategy, and it just doesn't work with these little small cap, low float, crazy ones as well. It works much better on bigger names. Oh, and I've teased this, so we can spend the next few minutes before we leave talking about this. So I was very interested on this strategy. So I've talked to this strategy. I've explained this strategy to you guys over and over. You've watched me kind of build it, and you've watched me, again, it's fully automated in my Interactive Brokers account. I don't have to press anything. I don't have to do anything. The trades are getting taken over there. So I'll look at that later. I probably got my NVDL. I probably also got Webull and the rest of them, but so maybe more of a break even in that account. But for those who don't know, the idea is pretty simple, is that it starts with the premise of when we gap, we probably gap a little bit too much on average in the long run, right? And if we gap and then break down under VWAP, there's a potential trade to be had there. And then if we gap, break down VWAP, the target is often the 2-day VWAP. So we're trying to move to what the average price of today and yesterday is. So that's basic idea, right? And the art of it, I guess, is for me in the morning scanning through all of these different names and trying to pick the ones that I think have the best chance of fading. This is what I pass the evaluation accounts with. It's what I'm trading live, and again in my real brokerage account as well. And the idea is you got to pick the names. The names are the big part. Again, auto trade it for me in my own account. Hopefully soon auto trade it in Trade the Pool as well. But not thinking about just saying, hey, if things are gapped up a bit too much, they fade. Seems to work way better in earnings season, right? When you have these large cap names that are actually gapping because there's earnings going on. Again, the idea is to fade these gaps in the long run. So I wanted to test it. I wanted to say, how would I test this? Because part of the problem with backtesting something like this is that I am picking the names, right? So it's going to kind of live or die based off the names that I end up picking. That's why I'm doing a lot of this self-talk, which is talk to you guys as well, saying it seems to work for this strategy, seems to not work for this strategy, seems to work at this time frame, doesn't seem to work at this time frame. And the reason for that is that I want to, it's a 5 minute. But I always like to have, everything I do starts with a backtest, right? I want to have some data that I'm onto something. There is some edge in what I'm doing. If I can't get that data at all, I get very nervous. So I spent a lot of time testing this weekend. And this, for example, is what happens. I programmed into TradingView, just backtesting this particular system on, this is just the Qs. I took it just with the Qs, and then you can see, not amazing, not perfect, 30% profitable, but over time, this is, slippage, commission, all that stuff included, over time makes money. If I go to something like NVIDIA and then test that, you can see what the system happens. So I'm trying to basically take the instance that I have, and I say there is some advantage to trading this system. That worked way better on the weekend. I got to look at that. I'll see if I can find the actual screenshots that I took. But yes, so if I can test it, then it gives me confidence, and it gives me kind of just a bit of, I guess, ability to say I'm onto something, and then from there I can start to really tweak. So yeah, these are I got to find out what the difference is. Might be time frame. Hold on, let me take these. We only got a couple minutes left here, so we're just doing a bit of chat with Michael while you can see the Qs are still just kind of messing about. So yes, this was on NVIDIA using whatever time frame I decided. It was either 2 or 5 minute. I think I was messing with the script some. So you can see only about 40% accurate, but over the long run, a 98% gain with a 14% max drawdown. For a day trading system, I would certainly take that. That's not year over year. That's from, I think, 5-6 years back. So, but this just doesn't necessarily mean, okay, go trade this. It just means, hey, the idea that you have has some merit to it. So all you have to do is do a good job at picking the stocks and very kind of brain dead, faithfully taking the triggers as they happen. And this kind of stuff really helps out when it comes to the trading, because I know over time, if I just implement this strategy small enough that I can withstand a whole bunch of losses in a row and not lose the account over the long run. You can see there's long periods of time here with no equity gains. There's long periods of time here in drawdown. I just need to say, okay, over the long run, I will end up making money with this strategy. And that to me is a very good place to get started. And it helps with a lot of the emotional side of trading, because it's sorted. It's like, okay, I'm just I know I have to stick with this because over the long run, it will end up paying me. And then look for the next thing as I automate it. So for me, now you can see I'm never really critiquing my exit, and I'm never really critiquing the entry, because those are all part of the system. What I'm critiquing is which symbols did I pick and whether or not they were good or bad. So for me, it's okay. I want to pick symbols that are liquid enough and gapping and all of that, so that I can tweak with that, right? Well, I think what the difference was, I actually added an indicator. I added a setting here that I was playing with. Yeah. So then from there, we can start to tweak with different things, right? Like how far should the two VWAPs be away, apart from each other, things like that, right? So that's what I'm doing a lot of. Again, when I'm backtesting pure systems, and I mean pure systems by the I'm backtesting the stock selection, I'm backtesting the entry, the exit, all of that is like the whole system is completely backtest. That's a lot easier, and I do that a lot. The what I'm testing here is more about, does my system make any sense? And if the system makes sense, then the discretion is on me to pick the symbols every morning. So the most amount of work that goes into the strategy now is just that, it's scanning there off of the open and getting those systems nailed down. So yeah, coding in PineScript. I am coding in PineScript, but like you mentioned, I'm not coding in PineScript. I'm having chats and literal conversations. I will put ChatGPT into my ear, and I will have a conversation in which I will say, this is what I'm thinking of doing. And I'm walking the dogs, or I'm out in the backyard, or I'm at the gym, and I'm going back and forth, and I'm having it research things online and what gaps are better to fade, blah, blah, blah. And then I have it write me something, and then I test. I think the kids are calling it vibe coding now, is the term, in which you don't actually have to know the exact coding. You have to be very good at describing what you want. You have to be very good at testing that thing and then giving it feedback and doing all that. But the actual art of, I'm going to hit this button and I need to write this line of text, format it this way, that's kind of completely gone. So that's what I'm doing. Again, that's what you will see more and more on the channel as time goes by. You'll see a lot of those, more me building scripts and testing them. And a lot of it is because I have decided, I figured out over many years of trading, there's a lot of gray in my beard, been doing this for 20 years, what I'm good at and what I'm not. Really good at coming up with ideas and making strategies and all that. Execution is not my thing. I'm not good at the kind of the emotional control required to really hone in on, doing a lot of what Mitch does, where you're bidding as things pop down and all that kind of stuff. So we live in a world where you should look at what you're good at. You should outsource what you're bad at. So it's one of those things. That's the game plan, at least for now. So that's what I'm playing with, and I hope it works. So, all right, guys, until next time, like Mitch said, we will be on tomorrow at 9 Eastern with Steve and with Mitch. He's going to be cheating on us a little bit with Trader TV beforehand, but we'll be on then. Appreciate all of you guys for coming out. And until then, I'll talk to you soon.